So today we're going to talk about how to use Zotero and bringing information into your document. In our first session, we talked about what is Zotero, how to use it, how to set it up, and how to make sure that your citations were clean, and talked about how important that is for when you're pulling them into your document. So now as we start this, we're going to look at our Word document. We're looking for the Zotero tab that's across the top. In Mac, it'll look a little bit different. If you're not seeing this at all, however, then what you'll need to do is go back to your Zotero account. You will need to make sure that it's open and running in the background. But if you go to Edit, Preferences, and then go to the Site tab, and instead of picking the style manual here, click on Word Processors. And this will allow you to install or reinstall the Word add-in. So if you're not seeing it, that's what you'll need to do. But when we come over here now, and we've got our Zotero set up there, the very first time you use this, you're going to need to set up your document preferences. And you do that right here where it says Document Preferences. You click on that, and it will open up and show you a variety of style manuals. The one that you're going to want to use for the NS department, for the SIG school in general, for the DA department, and for the CHDS. You're going to be using the Chicago Manual of Style, 17th edition, and most importantly, full note. Click on that, and then it will set it, and you won't have to worry about it again. So now we're ready to add a source. So you always want to put your cursor at the end of the sentence. You don't want to do a footnote in the middle of the sentence. So we're going to do it at the end of the sentence. We're going to come over here to Add Edit Citation. And you can either work out of different folders, or you can type in keywords or authors' names, depending on what you want to do. I'm going to be doing all my examples today from my Sovereign Citizens Movement folder for a bibliography that I work on. So I'm going to add my first citation in, which is this one. I'm going to click on that. And I know that I'm referring to information that came from a specific page, so I'm going to add that information in as well. So when I put that in, I come down here and I can look at it, and I can see it has all my information, and it's properly formatted. It's author's first name, last name, and that's what the footnote should look like. It has the rest of the information, and it has the page number that I was looking at. So now you learned a little bit before about the need to have the short version of the citation. And the nice thing about Zotero is it knows what to do with that. So when I come back up here, I put my cursor where I want to add my second citation. I come up here to Add Edit Citation. I'm going to use the same source again. Click on that, and in this particular case, now I'm going to reference a different page number. So I say OK, come down here and I look at it, and it knows that I use the exact same source, and that is the proper way. When it's directly below it, it doesn't have to have anything but the author's last name, and in this case, the page number. So we're doing pretty well. We come down here and we want to add some other information. It is possible sometimes that you want to provide your reader with a little bit more information, but you don't want it to detract from what you're writing. Maybe it's just supplemental information, and so you don't really want to add it in the body. You want to add it in the footnote. How do you do that? Well, in this particular case, we come over here to Add Edit Citation. We look at this. We choose the source that we want to add, which in this case is this one. And it so happened that in this one, it's the authors are talking about how there's a group called Posse Comitatus and how they are related to the Sovereign Citizens Movement. So maybe I want to add something like this in. Of course, typing is everything. So I want to add that information in. And I can fix anything I want. And oh, I should probably add the page number that that specific information comes from, and that happens to be 247 from that source. I say okay. And then when I come down here, I can look at it and I can see here's the additional information that I put in according to the authors, that it's a Latin word, and here's what it means. And I have my source and my page number. Well, I can see a couple of things here. One, I should probably capitalize the word Latin because that is a proper name. The SCM is the Sovereign Citizens Movement, and presumably I would have already used that before, and so that would be okay for me to do that there, as long as I had given indication what that stood for. So when I click on that, I can come over here and I can come down here and say, I really should have capitalized Latin, so I want to fix that here. And maybe I want to move that so that it doesn't appear first. Maybe I want it to be secondary to the citation. So I can pull this, I can cut it, and now I can add it here to the suffix. So it means it's going to add at the end of that information. And I'll put a period in. And maybe I want to say according to these authors. So you can say I can word it however I want. I can say okay. And now it's going to change that information. It has my citation first, and then it has the information that I'm putting in. And you'll notice there's no punctuation there, and that might be a little bit of a problem. So what I need to do with that is go back up here, and I would need to put a period and a space, because I want there to be a period between the ending of that. And so here's how I put that information in, and I've controlled it. So what happens now if I'm adding and I'm talking about multiple things? Maybe in the body I'm talking about how there's several different authors, several different publications that are believing the same thing or thinking the same thing, and I want to add them as one reference. You'll see sometimes where it might say footnote 345 all in a line. That's not what Chicago wants you to do. They want you to put it all together in one footnote. So again, we put our cursor at the end. We come over here to add edit citation. And now instead of single source, what we want is multiple sources. So we change that. We come up here and we add in the sources we're interested in, and we pull them over. And if I needed specific page numbers, I get to add them. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add this one. And then I'm going to add one more. So I can add all those over. And again, if I wanted to put any other information here, I have it. I say okay. And here's all of my reference. So there's a couple of things that have happened here. One is it's supposed to have a semicolon between each one. And in Chicago, or the Zotero knows that. And so there's my semicolon. But what it didn't catch was that after the last one, you are supposed to tell your reader that it is the last one. And the way you do that is you add the word and. So you come up here, you click on the last one, and as the prefix, you put the word and a space, and you put it in. You'll notice over here, however, that it's telling me that there's potentially a typo. This is not a typo in this one because that's the British spelling of the word, but this one I can see that there's a typo. And what's important here is I shouldn't fix it here because that won't help me. I need to go back and fix that in my Zotero. So if I come back over here to my Zotero, I go to my Pathways one, and I see, oh yeah, okay, either I miskeyed it or it brought it in wrong. Either way, it's up to me to fix it. And while I'm here, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that the title case here is lowercase, but if you'll notice over here, it's recognizing that it does need to be uppercase. So it does a pretty good job of that. But there are times that you might want to fix it yourself and change the title case when you're in Zotero. So I also want to come up here. I want to make sure I move my cursor. I don't want to leave it in this field because that will keep the error. It won't recognize something has changed. I want to move it out of that. And then a good habit to just go in and hit refresh once in a while so everything catches up. Then when I come back over to my document over here, all I have to do is I'm still clicked on this one, so it's still the last one I added, and I can hit refresh, and now it's going to make the changes. So it's fixed that typo, and it's brought in between the last one when I added in the word and, telling you, the reader, that I've added in the last one. So it's pretty straightforward. All you have to do again is just, instead of it being a single source, it's a multiple source. And so that's how you do that. Pretty straightforward. So now if we're adding something from a web page and we need to suppress the author, and you're saying to yourself, what do you mean suppress the author? How do I know what that is? So if I come back over here and I go to my how to cite for Chicago Turabian, and I come down here and I'm looking at this and I see, oh, well, when there's an author, it's fine. But when there's no author, individual author, and it's a corporate or organizational author, then it's showing me the footnote doesn't have any organization listed first. The subsequent or the short one does, and the bibliography does, but the footnote shouldn't. But I don't know how to do that. So when I come back over here to my document, and I edit my citation, and I know that this is the one I want to add, and the FBI is listed as the author. When I click on that, you'll see what it did was it brought it in as the author, but that other page told me it shouldn't. So how do I fix that? When I click on this, what I could have done first, if I had noticed it, was clicked on suppress author, but because I hadn't noticed it, now I can. Just click on suppress, and it will remove that just for that one, just for that instance. Subsequent uses of that same one, it would then revert back to having the FBI or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So what happens now when we want to move something around? Maybe as we're reading, we're deciding that we don't like our own sentence structure and we want to move things around. Is it going to remember the citations? Is it going to move them with me? So when I click on that and I move it around, you'll notice the footnote numbering is correct. It has changed. But when I come down here, is all my information okay? And yes, it is. It's got that information. It still remembered that I wanted to suppress the author. Here's my subsequent one, my third one. But what happens now if I want to move my third one somewhere else? Maybe I want to move it towards the bottom of what I'm talking about. Come down here, I add it there. Again, it's doing fine with the footnote numbering. But when I come down here, now there's a little problem with that because that's not what the short citation version should look like. How do I fix that? That's pretty easy. I just come up here and I click on refresh, and now it picks up with, oh, I'm not directly below it anymore, so I need to change the information. So it's very smart when it comes to this. You just need to remember to hit refresh, and then it will pick up on those kinds of things. What's really important here too is to note that for each one of these, when I click on these, they're highlighted because each reference that I pull into my Zotero account has a numbering system behind it that we don't see. And if you remember before, I talked about the need to eliminate duplicates. Well, here you'll see why. So here I have two different entries for apparently the same thing. So if I come up here and I add in another sentence, and I want to add in that particular reference, and I come down here and I add it in the first time, I put that in, all looks good, and then I'm talking about it again. And I think I'm adding the same one in, but I'm not paying close attention, and maybe I pick this one instead. You'll notice it's pulled it in twice. Why did it not recognize that it was something different? And the reason for that is, and you'll notice this one I have multiple authors and this one I don't. That's where I need to go back into my Zotero and take a look at it and figure out which one was correct. And then I should come over here because I've already added it in. I don't want to just completely remove it because that will leave me with a citation hanging. So I want to come over here to duplicate items, and I want to look at these two and decide which one is the one I'm most interested in. So this is the one, when I look at it, I only have one author, but when I look at this, it seems to be the full one. So that's the one I want to be the primary. I merge the two, and I'm going to sync this again. And now I can come back over here, and when I hit refresh, now it recognizes, because it merged those two, I don't have to do anything other than that. It's recognized that, oh, it's combined it into the same thing, and now it's got what I need. So that's pretty straightforward and pretty easy, but that's why you need to recognize that. My suggestion is when you're all done, you are going to need to add your bibliography. But my suggestion is you don't do that until you really are all done, because you're going to modify things, change them around, fix things, and when you refresh, it will clean them up. But there is a little bit of formatting that's going to have to be fixed when you're done. So what you need to do, and when you're ready, is put your cursor at the end of the document, because wherever your cursor is where it's going to put the bibliography. So I'm going to do a page break, put it on a whole clean new page, and then I'm going to come up here and click on Add Edit Bibliography. And it's going to pull in all of the sources I used. And it recognizes, because again, each one of these ties back to that number that I said was behind the scenes. And this is the little bit of cleanup that you're going to need to do. You're going to, in Chicago at least, you're going to want to have spacing between this. And you're also going to want to make sure that it really did pull in and put everything in the correct order, because sometimes things can be a little wonky and be out of order. But that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. All you have to do is make sure you keep your things cleaned up in your Zotero, and that way when you pull stuff over, it's not a problem. And you'll notice it's got the question mark and the comma, and it's kind of fighting with it, but that's okay. You don't have to worry about that. The very last thing you would do when you're all done is when you're getting ready to actually publish the thing, meaning you're turning it in for the final iteration, or maybe you're actually using this for something you're sending off, you would want to unlink those citations, but this is truly the very last thing you're going to want to do. And in order to do that, I would recommend that you save your file and maybe name it something like whatever the file name is, and then linked, because when we unlink it, you're severing that connection between your document and Zotero. And you do that by coming over here and you say unlink citations. And so that's, you'll see it says remove all field codes and unlink from your library. So when you do that, it's going to say, are you sure you really want to do that? And you say, okay. And again, now it's not linked. So now if I want to make any changes, I can do it in this document, but it's not going to be done in Zotero. So again, that's the very last thing you want to do at the very, very, very end of the process. So you don't need to worry about it now, but just know that that's how you can do it. And at that point, if you needed to change something and you realized you really didn't mean to unlink it, that's why you have that saved copy that is still linked and you can go back to it. So that's pretty straightforward. Hopefully you'll find it not too difficult to do. One of the things that you can do is go back over to the Chicago Citation Guide. You're going to want to pay attention to this to make sure things are working okay. And you're also going to want to be aware that in Zotero, it does a decent job with things, but not everything. So we do have on the Zotero Guide the fixing formatting and how to cite in Word, and we have some additional information there that will help you. And the fixing formatting, it'll give you some ideas of why you need to cite things in a particular way, even though they don't logically make sense to you. This is what we've learned, and we're trying to help you out. And there's another little additional information here. And as we go forward, we'll be also adding more information into the actual Chicago Guide itself. So I hope that helps. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to contact me or any of my colleagues. We're here to help you, and we have a great deal of experience with Zotero, and we want to make it easy for you. Thanks, and happy researching.